There's a moment every operator knows. A guest sends an inquiry. You reply warmly and quickly, and then the conversation disappears. No follow-up, no booking, no explanation. It feels sudden, but it rarely is. Most trust breaks don't happen in your inbox. They happen before or after, in small moments guests never mention, yet never forget. Only about a quarter of guests will actually tell you what's wrong. The rest leave quietly, convincing themselves they're just choosing something else, when what they're really choosing is safety. And this matters even more now, because travel is filled with hidden stress. Guests are stretched thin, families are juggling logistics and emotions. AI-generated marketing has made travelers more skeptical than ever. And consistency, well, not cleverness, is what earns their confidence. Today we're going to look at the 5 moments where trust really breaks. Here's the twist. Only one of these happens online. I'm Kay Walten, founder of Smart Pineapple. I help small hotels, vacation rentals, and unique stays get seen, get booked, and stay human in a world that keeps trying to automate the parts of hospitality that have always needed people. This is Seen, Booked, Sane. Short strategy, quiet truth, and one thing you can test before your next check-in. Let's start. Before we dive in, here's the context. Guest behavior is changing. Travelers still want comfort and adventure, but they also want certainty. They want clarity earlier. They expect fewer surprises. They make faster judgments, and they abandon properties quietly, or rather than risk confrontation. The entire guest journey has become a trust test. These 5 moments aren't tips. They're the emotional backbone of the stay. 5 points that form one continuous experience. And if trust slips in, even 2 of them, the guest will always choose the safer option, even if that option is simply not you. Moment 1, the website moment. The first signal, do you take this seriously? Your website is the guest's first real interaction with you, not the glossy version, the honest one. And I'll admit something, I'm a direct booking person. If I can book on your site, I will. But I've lost count of how many times I've clicked into a property's website and instantly felt unsettled. Outdated photos, tiny images, rambling text that doesn't help, or so little text that I'm still guessing how the room works. In those moments, I don't run to an OTA to look for better information. I don't chase clarity. I simply move on, because if the website feels neglected, it's hard to believe the stay won't be. This isn't aesthetic. It's psychological. A recent hotel case study saw bookings jump from 325 to 567 simply by simplifying the page layout, improving the images, and removing confusion from the booking flow. When the digital story is clear, the real-world story feels safer. And that takes us to the next moment, where tone matters as much as information. The inquiry moment, your reply is emotional reassurance. Guests don't read your response to understand policy. They read it to understand you. They want to know, will you be kind? Will you be calm? Will you show up if something goes wrong? And I see this trust break all the time with real estate agents who run short-term rentals. I recently booked an apartment for 2 months on the French Riviera. Perfect location, great price. One of those places that almost feels too good to be true. But the inquiry reply, completely transactional. No warmth, no welcome, just logistics and deadlines. And here's the thing, I work in hospitality. I know the area, I understand the business, and even I still had a small voice in the back of my mind saying, is this really the right choice? That's how powerful tone is. And if a message feels cold or rushed, guests don't see efficiency. They see risk. Tone builds trust. Tone breaks trust. And tone is what carries guests into the next, and most important, moment of the journey. Moment 3, the pre-arrival moment where expectations and anxiety collide. If there is one moment that predicts the success of a stay, this is it. Pre-arrival is the moment where guests imagine what could go wrong. Will someone answer the phone? What if we arrive late? Where do we park? How do we get inside? What if the directions are wrong? If you don't answer their questions early, their brain answers them for you, and it almost always chooses the worst-case scenario. I learned how powerful this moment is back when I lived in Acamal, Mexico, and worked as the local booking agent. A guest's flight got delayed. He didn't arrive until 1 a.m., and the small hotel he booked forgot to leave the door unlocked. He stood outside alone in a new place, trying every option he could think of. No answer, no staff, nothing. Finally, he called my mobile. It woke me up, but I drove over with keys to a nearby condo so he had somewhere safe to sleep. The next day, we moved him into his room, but the hotel had already lost his trust long before he ever touched the door handle. Pre-arrival is the hinge. Get it right, and guests arrive relaxed and ready to love the stay. Get it wrong, and trust cracks before the trip ever begins. Moment 4, the on-site moment. The emotional landing. These first few minutes shape everything that follows. Cleanliness, smell, light, energy, the way staff acknowledge guests or don't. I once booked an inn in Bobcaygeon, Ontario with my family. We walked in, and I knew instantly something was wrong. The rugs alone looked and felt like a biohazard. The rooms were tired and neglected. The towels and sheets were old. The air conditioner sounded like it wanted to escape the wall. We stayed 3 nights and spent as little time inside as possible. Guests don't judge with logic in these moments, they judge with instinct. Moment 5. The departure moment. The moment that determines whether they return. Most operators treat checkout as the end, but for guests, the emotional end comes later. A quick thank you, a fast deposit return, a simple follow-up message. These tiny touches say, "We cared about you even after the transaction ended." Hotels that prioritize post-stay care consistently see higher repeat bookings. Not because of incentives, because of memory. Loyalty is not a program. It's how people remember being treated when everything was already over. I stayed at a beautiful off-the-grid hotel in the Sian Ka'an biosphere. There was one dessert I absolutely loved. When I got home, I received a thank you note, and they included the recipe. Small gestures change entire stays. They turn satisfaction into a story. The reveal. Only one moment is online. Let's pull it together. The website, the inquiry, pre-arrival, on-site, departure, 5 moments. Only one happens on a screen. The other 4 happen in the quiet human places where trust is actually earned. Guests don't read your marketing. They read your patterns, and consistency, not perfection, is what makes them feel safe enough to book again. Trust isn't built in the big gestures. It's built in the moments guests never talk about, but never forget. 1. Thing to test before your next check-in. Before your next guest arrives, send one pre-arrival message that includes a photo of exactly where to park, a photo of the entrance. One simple line of reassurance: if anything feels unclear, text me. I'm here. Watch how differently the guest arrives. Watch how it changes their tone, and watch what it does to the rest of the stay. Small clarity creates big trust. Thanks for listening. If this episode helps you rethink your guest experience, try the test and see what shifts. Trust isn't complicated. It's consistent. This is seen, booked, sane. I'll see you next time.